Okay. Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to our weekly Facebook Live broadcast, which we're going to hold here every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Today, I want to talk a little bit about investing strategies. Now, so you've probably noticed that this isn't necessarily something that I cover a lot here on this page. I like to focus my content on what I think are the very real, important decisions we need to make when it comes to our money and how we approach money from a day-to-day and even emotional standpoint. But ultimately, right, investing is a big part of how we handle our money. And so today I wanted to cover a question that I've probably fielded anywhere from 12 to 15 times in the past couple months. And that has to do with Bitcoin, right? What's all the fuss about? Should you be investing in Bitcoin? Is it a good idea to put your money into Bitcoin? And my response to you here today is one word. Why? Literally, why? I don't mean that necessarily in a negative way. I really do. I sound sarcastic, I know, but seriously, why? Right? Why do you want to invest in Bitcoin? And specifically, I have three different why questions, if you will, that I want to pose back to you here today. And I'd really encourage you to think through these, both about Bitcoin specifically, if that's something you're interested in, but just also in terms of how you manage your investments in general, right? These three why questions that I have are really important when it comes to thinking through how to approach the subject. So I wanted to dive into those a little bit here today. The first question I have for you is why now, right? Why is Bitcoin something that is coming up right now? Bitcoin's not a new thing. It's been around for at least 7 or 8 years. And I've never heard anybody ask me whether or not they should be investing in Bitcoin up until maybe mid-December of 2017 or so. I started, like I said, getting probably a dozen questions about this particular topic. Didn't hear anybody asking or talking about investing in Bitcoin when it was $100 to get in 2013, or when it was $500 in November of 2015, or even when it was $1,000 in January of 2017. Right? Nobody asked me about Bitcoin until it was priced well over $15,000 in December of 2017. Right? We have a natural tendency when we're making investment decisions to want to buy into investments when things are going up, when they're doing well. Right? The investment's done well, so it probably will continue to do so. Right? Very, very well could. The problem is just because it's gone up before doesn't mean it necessarily will continue to go up in the future. And in fact, I think that's a very, very dangerous assumption to make when it comes to choosing investments. Case in point, I had a client a few years back who had 2 different investments with me. I don't remember what they were. It doesn't matter. We'll call them investment A and investment B. And I met with the client about 6 months after we invested into those 2 investments. And she had some more money that she wanted to invest, right? We were gonna put some more money into one of these investments. Now, investment A had done really well over the past 6 months. It was, it had a really good turn. She made a lot of money off of it. Investment B was still a good fund, but it really hadn't done well over the past 6 months. It might have even gone down a little bit. I don't really remember. Guess which one she wanted to put her money in when it came down to investing this new money that she wanted to invest. I'll give you a hint. She didn't choose, or she didn't want to choose the one that hadn't done well recently, right? She wanted to choose investment A, which really had done well. So why not put more money into it, right? We naturally look for how things have done in the past and use that as the basis for our decision making when it comes to making investments. But there's a problem with that. And the problem is if that's the way you're going to make investment decisions, it's a really, really good way to lock yourself into buying investments when they're priced high and selling them when they're low, right? We know that intuitively that you want to buy investments when they're low and sell them when they're high. That's how you make money off of them. So we want to choose things that have done well because they might continue to do well, and they might. But if they don't, right? If they've done well up until now, but then they don't do well, and there's a decent chance that they actually might not, you're creating a nice structure for yourself to invest at high prices and then lose out when the investment falls in price, right? We don't know what Bitcoin is going to do tomorrow. We don't know if it's going to get more expensive or less expensive to invest in. right? But the point is, buying it just because it's done well lately is really, really dangerous, because if you do this consistently, you're really setting yourself up well to buy investments when they're high and sell them when we're low, which we know isn't what we're supposed to do. But ultimately, this is just a bias that we have. We want to invest in things that have done well, because they might continue to do well, but we can't assume that. We just fundamentally can't assume that. So that's the first why question when it comes to Bitcoin. Right? Why now? Second one is, why Bitcoin specifically? Right? And full disclosure here, for those of you who know me for a little while, I'm not a technology expert. Not my thing. I'm the finance guy. I do that. Right? Technology is not my area of expertise. But so if you have more like kind of technical questions about how this works, I do have people in my network that I'd be happy to connect you with who can tell you all that you need to know about this. But know that there's a difference between Bitcoin itself and the technology behind it, which is called blockchain technology. It's a very real technology. It's here to stay. It has some value. I've heard people describe Bitcoin as a speculative bubble, or even I've seen the words tulip bubble used, which is a very specific reference that I think is actually worth digging into a little bit. Right? Is Bitcoin the next tulip bubble? And my answer is no, for reasons that we'll talk about. But what do we mean tulip bubble? Right? This actually goes back to the 1600s in Europe. Really, the very first investment bubble that existed had to do with buying tulip bulbs, the things that you plant to grow tulips. Tulips aren't native to Europe, apparently. I didn't know that, but they aren't. Traders brought them in the 1600s, and people really liked them for some reason. Don't know much about tulips. Don't know why, but people really liked them, and to the point where there wasn't a big supply, but everybody wanted them, so prices went up quite a bit. And then not only did price go up from supply and demand, but people started gaming the system a little bit. They said, okay, what if we were able to just buy up a lot of tulip bulbs and then try to sell them off at higher prices, right? What happened with the price of tulips back then is it went really very, very high, to the point where it was many times the price of a tulip bulb was many times the average person's income at the time. The problem is it wasn't based on anything, right? There was no inherent value to it. It was just really completely based on the whims and of the ongoing fad of the day. So eventually, not too much longer later, people kind of got sick of them, and the price of the tulip bulbs went back to basically nothing, right? The people who invested at the top lost just about everything. And that's what I've seen people compare Bitcoin to today. And I really don't think that's the right comparison to make. Because of the underlying blockchain technology, it really is something that's valuable and here to stay, I think. It's not based on nothing, right? This is something that has some inherent value to it. But I do think it has some bubble-like tendencies. And the comparison I'd actually make isn't to this tulip bubble, but rather to what happened in the United States in the technology industry in the mid-1990s to early 2000s, right? Dawn of the internet, tech startups, computers, internet technology, all those things were popping up left and right. A lot of new stocks hit the market that everybody wanted into because it was the internet was the new big thing. And most of the companies didn't make it, right? A lot of them, some of them did, certainly, and the ones that did are the ones that are really, have done really well, right? Amazon, Google, all those. But ultimately, right, prices went up so high that eventually, as some companies started to fail, there was a little bit of a price correction, right? Prices came down. And I think that really is kind of a much more similar thing that's happening to Bitcoin today. The beginning of the tech boom, let me ask you this, right? So, at the beginning of the tech boom in the 90s, when all these companies were starting up and stock prices were going up and up and up, what was the big new stock? What was the first big new technology stock back in the mid 90s, right? Google started a little bit later, right? The big technology stock, the one that everybody was really excited about, that went up in price like crazy, was Netscape, right? And some of you probably don't even know what Netscape is because it's not around anymore. Netscape was really one of the first main internet browsers that really competed with America Online back in the early days of the internet. That was the stock everybody was excited about, right? The IPO, the introduction of the stock into the stock market was huge. Price went up astronomically in value. couple years later, AOL bought it for a fraction of what it was worth, and the browser has been long defunct, right? It's not around anymore. And I think that sort of frame of reference is a really good one to think about Bitcoin in that context, right? I would expect that all of these blockchain firms that you're seeing launch right now, and I've seen a lot of posts advertising them. I would frankly expect that 15% of them or so will succeed. They'll actually make it, and the ones that do may very well do really well, just like Google and Amazon did back in the 90s. Unfortunately, we don't know which ones those are, right? And there's no such thing right now, at least that I can find as of this recording. Right? There's no such thing as a blockchain or crypto mutual fund that I have a lot of faith in, at least. That may well come along in time, but there's no way to just buy into this phenomena as a whole right now. You have to buy into an actual venture or an actual firm, if you will. You need to pick and choose which one you're going to which one you're going to go with. And I really, if I'm going to suggest that maybe 15% of them will succeed, means you might have an 85% of chance of losing everything if it were to fail. And to answer the actual question, right, should you invest in Bitcoin? My answer is, if you have the capacity to invest in something like that, if you're okay with investing in something that risky, I'd say sure, with some fun money, right? I wouldn't invest anything that you're relying on, just in case it really doesn't work out. And before you invest in one of these companies, I would ask yourself, what would happen if this investment went down to zero? What happens if it literally goes to zero? And if you're comfortable with taking that risk with a little bit here and there, go for it, right? I mean, I actually encourage people to invest in things that sound interesting to them a little bit here and there with what I typically call fun money, but don't do your serious investing in these sorts of schemes right now. And one caveat to that, though, is watch out for scams, right? These aren't, these crypto blockchain investment ventures are not yet regulated in the same way that other investments are. The SEC, I've seen, has started to crack down on this, but I've seen several opportunities out there that have been advertised that I would bet just about anything are scams, right? Because there's not the regulatory structure behind them right now to actually enforce those things. So I'd be very careful, make sure that if you do invest in something like this, it's legitimate, and only with money that you really would be okay losing entirely. So that's the second question, the why question, right? Why Bitcoin specifically? The third why that I'd like you to answer is why do you think that it's the right investment for you, right? Does it fit with your investing game plan, right? Does it fit with your investing philosophy, or is it just a fad that you've heard about, you've heard it done well, and you're looking to get in on, if you will? Making a lot of money isn't an investing plan, right? That's not how you should be framing this, at least on its own. There's a lot more you need to take into account, but how you do it is important too, right? How do you want your money to serve you, right? What exactly is it you're looking for in this investment? Are you looking for something that's going to grow a lot over time? Are you looking for something that's going to grow really quickly and then sell it off before it falls? Or would you rather have an investment that's going to pay you some sort of income stream, which a lot of them do? How much risk do you want to take, right? I know some people who literally, almost not figuratively, I should say, almost get ill thinking about having their investments drop in value. Right? Bitcoin's probably not the right thing for a person, right? You have to be comfortable taking risk in order to pursue this venture. And finally, what are you investing for, right? What is this money actually for? Is it for something longer term, like retirement, or is it more for something that you're looking to spend in a few years, right? You need to know the answers to those questions before you can actually pick the right kind of investment. And frankly, that goes beyond Bitcoin, right? It certainly applies here, but really for all of your investments, strategy in place. So while Bitcoin or any of these other investments out there could be the right thing for a little bit of money for you, you need to make sure it fits in with the rest of what you're trying to do. And don't risk your entire investment strategy on something that doesn't necessarily fit it. So anyway, I hope this was helpful in terms of talking about Bitcoin. Like I said, we're going to have these videos every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And I typically will base these on questions that come in. So if you have something you want to hear a little bit about, for 10 or 15 minutes or so, go ahead and leave a comment on the video or send me a quick email. Would be happy to add your question to the queue. Anyway, thanks so much, everyone. Have a good night.